like and subscribe. Give man a fish, and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime. What are some examples of this? Give man a gun and he can rob a bank. Give man a bank and he can rob the world. It's like raising kids. You're not raising the kid you have now, you're raising the adult they'll be. Sometimes you just have to let them / force them to spend the time doing something that would take you 5 minutes. My sister-in-law used to spend ages getting the kids to put their dishes in the washer, clothes in the hamper, etc. Starting very young, like just able to carry the stuff young. She was patient and firm, but it sometimes took a long while of pouting and whining. We joked about it once, and she was like, this is an investment for when they're older. She was like that with everything with them. And other family members later wondered why I jumped to babysit her kids who were awesome, and not the other nieces and nephews who were feral. If you're a US citizen, 25 or older, are unmarried, and make less than $30,000 a year, you can get a free, grant-funded ride through community college, if you specify on the FAFSA that your parents will not be helping you. I used it to learn how to weld, but it can be applied to anything from it to any other well-paying skill you can think of. Important edit. Also, someone fact check this, but I think you must be a full-time student to get full funding. I'm not sure about this at all, however. At the time I was a security guard, so I happened to have the free time for homework / online courses, etc. In addition to my in-person classes. Give a puppy a ball and she's happy for a minute. Teach a puppy to fetch a ball, and she wants to play fetch all the time. Anytime you sit down, it never stops. OMG, what have I done? Build a man a fire. You warm him for a couple of hours. Set a man on fire, and he's warm for the rest of his life. When my parents died, me and my 2 siblings each inherited around $20K. Now, it's important here, because this story doesn't make me look very smart, to note that we were all in very different life stages. I had an established career, I'm the oldest, and I owned my own house. So I socked a few K into my kids' 529 plan. I took a vacation and I accelerated a car purchase that, prior to this, I had tentatively planned for a few years down the road, and that I was nervous about because I wasn't sure my car at the time would last long enough. My sister was still in the Navy. My brother was screwing around at community college, accumulating many credits in seeming nonsense that wasn't leading to a degree or any meaningful training. He picked classes based on what sounded cool, or where he thought he had a decent chance of getting laid. If I were a betting man, I would have put the money on my sister being the responsible one and my brother eyeing away that money. By the end of the year, my sister bought a truck, and my brother, I still don't fully understand what happened, got transformed into a responsible adult. He stashed the $20K in a mutual fund that had a solid performance history. Because he had taken courses in almost every program at his CC, he had also taken finance, and his professor was a practicing stockbroker who taught students how to research and evaluate stocks, mutual funds, etc. He then turned around and declared a major for the 7th or 8th time, and found himself ready to graduate after 1 more semester, since he needed to take like 3 more courses to actually meet some degree requirements. He got a job at a temp agency and began working on his bachelor's on weekends and at night, pre-internet learning really being a serious thing. He had no credit, but since he opened up his investment account through his local bank, they were willing to give him a credit card even after all of the big box retailers and others turned him down. He utilized his credit, but never carried any meaningful balance. 2 years later, my money is long gone. Aside from the equity in my car and the money I put into the 529. My brother's balance is around $26K. He's graduating with his bachelor's degree. He leverages his temp job to get a job in ours. Super entry level, nothing fancy. But from there he climbs the ranks, and today he's a VP of ours at an international corporation. He's making money like a boss. So much so that, when I decided to start my own business about 2 to 3 years ago, he helped me secure financing, and gave me a little bit of cash to help purchase the commercial property I now own. Now obviously where he is now it took him years of work. But I was always fascinated by his sudden shift, so I asked him about it. He told me, when he got that check his first thought was to go out and buy a Robux and whatever mods for his Pontiac Sunfire to make it look really sick. Then he realized that, if he did, that he would have a watch he couldn't afford to maintain, and a car that would eventually break down. He would get a few years, tops, of pleasure out of those things, and be left with nothing in the end. He wanted those things because he wanted to feel like a success, and he realized the best way to feel like a success was to become a success. The teach to fish thing was interesting because he screwed around so much at community college that he had, unbeknownst to all of us, him included, he had acquired quite a breadth of knowledge that most people lack. He can draw exceptionally well because he learned how to draw from an actual artist. He can fix his car because he took courses in automotive and in bodywork. He was able to invest his money because he took some courses in finance. He was able to land a temp job in our departments because he had some coursework in those areas too, and could competently speak the language, even if he was only there as an administrative assistant. He is a really good cook because he took cooking classes, and the list goes on. So he didn't just take his community college time and turn it over to a bachelor's degree and go forward. He took all of these pieces of knowledge that by themselves made little sense. In the end it made him one of the most well-rounded and talented people I've ever met. He has interesting hobbies. He knows how to fix many things. He is well-rounded and well-read. He didn't just learn to fish as a means to feed himself. He took what he was taught and synthesized it holistically into his entire being. He still has that $20K, worth much more now, BTW. I am a chef. And have been for 20 plus years. I have had a ton of people that have wanted to be apprentices. Most don't last a week. But further than Tato vertical bar bread. Before even getting apprentices to peel stuff at a vertical bar, I get them to make bread. Because bread. Once they have made the recipe a few times, I get them to try and make a flav or a roe of their choice. Typically they'll use an ingredient with extra liquid and not think about how that will affect the texture. But you let them go and do their thing. It usually turns out completely. And then after you talk with them about what went right, what went wrong, how to change recipes on the fly while keeping things within the parameters of the expected outcome. You can always teach, but you can never force people to learn. You can also not expect people to just know the outcome. Back in college, my cousins would always ask me to bring home some movies on the weekends. It got a little too much, so I just taught them how to torrent Mayo. Chiropractic care versus seeing a physician specializing in musculoskeletal medicine who can counsel the patient on the importance of muscle balance, activity modification, and the importance of compliance with home therapy programs. Chiro adjustments undoubtedly help with pain, but if you don't fix the underlying imbalance, then you're just going to line the pockets of your chiropractor and never be satisfied. Making sure your parents actually fix some of their tech problems themselves, so that they don't constantly badger you for help doing things like installing a web browser, or finding an app on their phone. Teach a man to fish. And now he has to buy a fishing rod, and apply for a fishing license. He will need to take out a car loan, to drive to the lake. And the lake is privately owned, so he will have to pay for access to the lake. And the camping fees, and the car insurance. Now the man is caught in a 9 to 6 rat race, and he kills himself, because there is no way out of the debt pit. Education. It is one thing to get a degree, and that is a great accomplishment, but if you are led the whole way by professors and classmates, it does nothing to prepare you for the real world. You have to learn how to educate yourself, so that you may go through life with the ability to learn on your own, and more importantly see where you need to learn, in order to grow in the direction you want. Compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. He who understands it, earns it. He who doesn't, pays it. A. Einstein. Asterisk I don't remember saying THAT asterisk. A. Einstein. Give man a fish, and you feed him for a day. Don't teach a man how to fish, and you feed yourself. Here's a grown man. Fishing is not that hard. Ron Swanson. Give man a program. Frustrate him for a day. Teach a man to program. Frustrate him for a lifetime. The Socratic method is about not giving the student the answer, but asking him enough questions to figure it out him or herself. People learn better when they arrive at the conclusion themselves, rather than just memorizing random facts with no context. I used to open and close the kitchen door for the cat whenever he wanted in or out. Then, I installed a pet door and taught him how to use it. Now, he comes and goes as he likes, without need of valet service. Give a man a jacket, and it'll be warm for the winter. Teach a man to jacket he won't leave the house. There's tons of microfinance schemes which do exactly this. Muhammad Yunus got a Nobel Peace Prize for setting up a bank, Grameen Bank, which primarily dealt in microloans to women in Bangladesh. Give them a microloan to buy 2 chickens. Those chickens will lay eggs, and make other chickens which can be sold, and buy more chickens and so on. I've seen schemes here in the UK and US with microloans for things like help to get tools, to start a gardening business. Kiva was a well-known org which did crowdfunded versions, sort of. The loans have nil or minimal interest, and are backed by eternal parties. Whilst the Kiva concept was that your money would help a lady in Fiji buy a loom, the money donated to Kiva never actually went to the final recipient. Local banks provided the loans and Kiva provided security on them. Any work scenario where someone gets mad at you for not knowing something. You can lose your mind if something isn't done to your standard, or you can teach them how to do it so that they complete it satisfactorily moving forward. This kind of speaks to the lack of survival/home skills a lot of us have. It used to be that skills like darning socks, sewing, making jam and pickles, etc. was passed down through generations. Now, we don't have time and don't learn these skills from our parents, unless maybe you were Mennonite/grew up on a farm. It's cheap and easy to buy new socks, and planned obsolescence means most technology has a short life. It's sad because it just increases consumerism and waste, and we have lost certain fundamental life skills. I don't disagree, but what is the alternative when the sum of human knowledge has far outstripped what a single individual can know? Specialization is the logical result. While it makes sense to learn what you can in a broad range of useful areas, it also makes sense to let someone else be the sock expert while you concentrate on your pickles. Give man a fish and he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish, and he'll spend all day in a boat drinking beer. I used to buy stolen goods, now I steal them myself. Suck me off. I'll bust once. Surgically remove 2 of my ribs. I'll suck myself off for life. Give man a fish, feed him for a day. Take his fish away, and tell him he's lucky just to be alive, and he'll figure out how to catch another one for you to take tomorrow. Maxim 21, https://sklockmercenary. fandom.com/wiki/the_70_maxims_of_maximally_effective_mercenaries. Howard Taylor. Saturday, June 12, 1983, Johann Bergmeister of Rostock went with his family to Nordsee for lunch, a German fast food chain specializing in seafood. His father purchased him a meal of lightly fried fish fillets and pommes frites. It was a hectic day, and they had skipped breakfast in order to get the day rolling. He would later skip dinner, as well. He then took an apprenticeship at a fishery some years later. The work was grueling but honest. He did not make much on a daily basis, but Johann was diligent, and saved as much as he could. He'd eat from his catch, surviving off a mostly pescatarian diet. However, due to rising mercury levels in seafood, he slowly began to suffer from paranoia. He would not trust his fellow fishermen who would share the deck with him. Mean fish, Dean fish, unfair fish, itchmash ditching fish. Johan became convinced that his boatmates were actually fish spies, who had taken human form, in order to fish people. He confronted Hans, the captain of the small ship. His accusations were dismissed under the assumption that he had been drinking. Soon afterwards, Johan decided to enact his revenge on the fish spies. He left the fishery and moved to England. He started a number of businesses that all failed. He no longer ate fish, but the mercury had already done his damage. As a paranoid schizophrenic, he was unable to secure lasting employment, and having spent all his savings into failed business ventures, he became homeless. He lived the rest of his life in the outskirts of Essex, scavenging scraps to feed himself. Eventually, his paranoia led him to believe that the scraps were out to get him too, leading to a final fast, until death took him away from his starvation. Da fuck I just read? Did you just paraphrase an unpublished ends novel lol? There is a saying that, if you educate a boy, you educate a man. If you educate a girl, you educate a family. Basically, teaching women breaks the cycle of poverty, because as a parent they can then teach their children. Work your off every day following the Amazon warehouse rules, learn how to not die picking products, and Jeff Bezos will get to take a space trip. Beat a man to death, and you don't have to feed him anymore. Side note, I tried to use this idiom with a coworker once. She asked me to do something for her that she didn't know how. I started showing her how to do it instead of just doing it and walking away. She asked me why I was trying to teach her, and I started to say, "Give man a fish." And she cut me off by saying, "I'm not a man." I changed the idiom to give a woman a fish, and you feed her for a day. When she cut me off again to say, "I don't eat fish." She also asked me for help once carrying a box of fairly light supplies, to which I said that looks like a one-man job. And she responded by putting them back, and saying if that's the case, why don't you do it as one man? Give man a fish and tomorrow he will ask for 2 fish. Get them hooked, so you can charge more. Smart. Ask my stepdad to borrow a tool and he'll come do the work for me. Then he caught on, bought himself new tools, and gave me his old ones. Free tools, woot. I wish teaching family how to take care of their computers and phones fell under this philosophy. Visiting family and cooked fish are alike. It turns bad in no time. My friends taking me to the strip club showed me how to waste my money, and from that day I definitely knew how to go broke. Accept Hitler to art school, he'll give you some fine art. Reject Hitler from art school, he'll invade Poland. Humanitarian work. Giving money to government or even building important infrastructure for them is not as helpful as it might seem, and leaves the locals feeling small and dependent. Instead, teach locals how to build important infrastructure, hire them, let them build it up instead of foreign volunteers. Help them to know how to help themselves. Also, they are more capable than foreigners as they know how to create things that can withstand their climate and other factors. Let them use their local knowledge. So yeah. Teach them how to fish and buy their fish. My entire relationship with money. My entire life I have not really had to worry about money. I always had a roof over my head and food. My parents taught me nothing about how much something costs, so much so, when I went to college at 19 my entire existence could be summed up into the loose old bluff meme, what does a banana cost Mitchell? $10? I'm in heavy debt, because I never learned the value of a dollar, and to this day, have to reteach myself every time I want something frivolous. If they had sat me down, talked to me about budgeting, and the importance of saving money, my entire life would be different now. Now I am teaching myself how to fish. There are times when I still think about how much things cost in terms of how many hours I have to work to earn that much money. I'll be 52 in a couple months, working since I was 14. Make a fishing line for a man and he will catch fish with it until it's broken. Teach him how to make a fishing line and he will fish forever. Keep my fish and my secret fishing spots to myself. You've been visited by the ghost of a very important man. Pay your respects by liking and subscribing, and he'll grant you 3 weeks of good luck.